friends, it's Karla here today with Creative Scrapbooker Magazine, and we're going to do an art journal page with some beautiful Ranger products. Here we have some distress crayons, we have some Dina Wakley products, some chipboard shapes, the media journal, which is craft paper, and it's absolutely lovely to work in. Then we have some distress oxide spray in the new scorched timber. I actually don't use that, but we do use some of the other scorched timber products. There you saw some collage medium. We've got some acrylic paint from Dina Wakley and some collage words, which are printed on tissue paper and are very cool to use. We also have some tags. These are white and in assorted sizes here, and those are great to work with as well. We've got some collage papers, which are again printed on tissue, a larger background images, and then we have some stencils, the lattice and the bumps stencil. So here's a look at the media journal. I have a page that I did with a retailer class with Dina Wakley, which was lovely, and using some of her products. And then we're going to flip to a new page so we can do a new journal page. I grabbed some of the Dina Wakley Ranger paints. These are acrylic paints. These are in some smaller bottles, and they are really smooth and beautiful to work with. And the colors just pop on this craft background. And I'm just smoothing out that paint over the background. I don't need to cover the whole thing. And I've grabbed some chipboard shapes here, and then I've got the collage words, which are on smaller pieces of tissue paper. So I'm going to coat the chipboard shapes. There's two different sides, and I'm using more of the paper side. I'm going to coat it with the paint, and I'm adding a little bit of that pink and a little bit of white. You can definitely mix these. When the acrylic paint is dry, it's permanent and it won't move, but you can definitely mix it with water when it is wet. And I'm creating a bit of a stamp by covering the chipboard with the paint, and so I'm just going to go back and forth and add more paint and stamp it on, sometimes repeating the stamp. It's kind of a, it's a heart image, but I don't think it has to be perfect. So this is a really fun way to add some color to your pages and also paint your shape at the same time. I'm going to add the stamp again to the tag. You can see it tears off a little bit of that background chipboard paper, which I think looks actually pretty cool. So I added a little more paint over top. It looks kind of vintage. This is the bumps stencil, and so I'm adding the paint with a sponge while I have everything out on the craft mat there. That's the tonic craft mat that goes with the glass mat, and that paint just really, really pops. It looks beautiful. And I'm going to add some of that stenciling to the tag as well, and just kind of coordinate everything. Now I'm going to add some of the yellow in the same manner, just using my paintbrush and painting over. I did add a little bit of water just to soften the color and make it a little bit less opaque, but I think either way looks fine. And then I set that one aside to dry. I wanted to kind of experiment to see if I layered the paint over dry paint, if it would stamp more evenly. Now I'm just using the lattice stencil and adding that pretty bright yellow. I think these are great spring colors as well. And here I have the blue, and when it ends up being mixed with the yellow, it really takes on kind of a spring green turquoise color. And then just stamping this as well. So here I'm creating a background. I'm not creating something that specifically I need a certain shape to be seen or stamp. It's more of adding that color, creating some interest, and some elements on the background. So it still did pull a little bit of that chipboard off, which I actually really like. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of that paint around the edges, and even just over top. While it's on the craft mat, I figured I may as well use a little bit to add some color. I have those collage words out, and I added a little bit of paint on those as well. And then I grabbed the Scorched Timber Distress Oxide pad. Here are some Diane Reevely stamps. Now these specific stamps are older and they're not in the store anymore. However, there are very similar ones in the Ranger shop, and Diane has definitely this beautiful style of this hand-drawn elements, and I felt like this would work really well with this page. So definitely check out the Ranger store and see what they have there, and you can see what your local scrapbook stores have in as well. And there are definitely similar leaves and elements that you can pick up. This one is a little zigzag stamp, and again, this is just kind of adding to that background. So I'm stamping in different sizes of stamps and different ways that I'm stamping on the page, just to add a little bit of detail. Now I have the Distress Collage medium. This is great for applying things on the background. So I just spread it on with a paintbrush onto the tissue paper. Now I do switch over to the Dina Wakley gel medium. I just felt like because it was a larger surface, so you'll see in a minute that it was a little more fluid for the larger pieces. But the Distress Collage medium is really great for applying anything, and you're going to see that I will use it to apply those chipboard shapes. It holds really well, and I think if you have smaller pieces, it's definitely a great option. And then for the larger tissue, I really liked using the Dina Wakley gel. I grabbed some of the Distress crayons. There's some of the regular and there's some of the mica ones with the pearl in them, and I think just depending on what colors you like, these are great, especially for adding around the edges. And I just wet my finger a little bit. Another thing to remember is with the Distress crayons, if they're a little bit damp or your finger's just a tiny bit damp, they're going to move a lot easier. Or if you put them over a surface that has the collage medium on the base, almost like a primer, they move really well. But you can see even over the various layers on the tag, on the paint, they move differently on the page, but they still look really great and add a lot of nice color. The Scorched Timber is the newest color that Ranger has released, and it is such a lovely brown color that is great for any kind of edging, adding any kind of shading. It works really well. I'm even going ahead and coloring in some of these leaves. Now we did stamp them with the Oxide ink, which is still going to move because it is water-based. If we wanted something that didn't move at all, we could use an archival, but you can see I was just careful and not to smudge all over the stamped image, and so it still remained enough that I was really happy with it, and I did like how it blended a little bit with that crayon. Now we have the Collage paper, which is a printed tissue. It has lots of great images, and I'm cutting this out with the OLFA scissors. They're nice little stitching scissors that are really sharp and great for fussy cutting. And this is just another element to layer over your tags and your journal pages. Once you have that background painted, you're going to be able to layer these over, and this is nice because it does have that black print, so it almost looks like it's stamped, but the tissue is light, and so it's going to show through the color that you have underneath. And here's that heart. I re-stamped that just to have it a little bit darker. And then I grabbed another collage page with the small circles, and I'm just adding those around my page. And here's the distress ink, and I'm going around the tag in different places just to add even a little bit more shading. The Oxide is a little bit more chalky, and the ink is a little bit more, a little darker. So depending on what surface you're putting on. And here I'm adding some twine to the top, and I'm coloring it with the Distress crayon by adding a little bit of water and the crayon directly onto the twine. And it's a great way to color your ribbon or your twine to coordinate. And I wanted to make sure this tag really stayed down, so I love this collage medium. And you have a few minutes to move it around, but once it's stuck down, it's going to remain stuck down. And I used it as well to adhere the chipboard shapes. And then I grabbed a photo of my two younger girls, and I thought this would be just a nice page to add a little photo to. So it didn't start out as being a scrapbook page per se, but I really love the addition of adding that photo and kind of personalizing it. And these papers are really great. They are the typed ledger sheets. So they're from the Dina Wakley line by Ranger. And I just cut out a quote and cut that quote into pieces that would fit on the page. And then I'm just applying it, gluing it on with the collage medium. And I added a little bit of ink around the edge. And I'm finishing off the page with some dewdrops from the Robin's Nest Creative. These are the diamond shapes, very pretty. They have lots of different colors, so I decided to go with the pink, green, and blue, kind of in keeping with the page. And they've just added just soft element, a little bit of bling, and just a fun way to finish off the page. And I'm using the Prism Studio gem picker for picking those up, which is great. So here's a look at the beautiful Ranger products that we used to make this scrapbook journal page today. I hope you had fun watching and that this gives you some inspiration on how to layer your own tags and pages. And I hope you have a wonderful and very creative day. Thanks for stopping by.